I only ran ads, and that was a big no-no, right? If you're gonna run ads specifically, you should also have.
I can see it. That's a big jump for anybody in that position where it's like, you want some more money? That's how. I guess since this is the first time me and you talking like this, how did you first get into making music?
Yeah, my family's always been a musical family. My sister went to school to be an audio engineer for 4 years, and so she's always been super into it. We were just talking right before this about EDM and stuff. She was super into that, so she wanted to pursue a career in that. So I had that to look up to. My dad was a drummer for about 10 years. He'd play with a ton of really big metal bands. He doesn't do it anymore, but my mom just always listened to music. So it's always been something I've been around. I think that's something all creators can relate to. I didn't grow up playing any instruments or anything like that, but just always been around it. But it wasn't until I'd say it's a couple years before COVID, I saw the Genius Deconstructed videos. And that's where I saw Nick Mira. I think it was All Girls Are the Same Deconstructed.
Classic.
And he was saying he's in high school and he's making like $100,000 a year or more, and he's making hit songs. He's like, these kids are playing my song. They don't even know I made it. Like, that just seemed like the coolest thing to me. So that's when I really was like, all right, I'll check it out, right? See what making beats is all about. So I got GarageBand on my school laptop, and that's when I really started diving into it. But I just kind of played around with it for a couple of years, late middle school into early high school. And then it was when COVID happened, you got nothing else to do. So that's when I bought FL Studio, and I really started getting into it more and diving into it.
Yeah. COVID was was a catalyst for so many
100%.
people and creative projects and all that. That's crazy. So you started making beats then. When did you first start to get your first major placements?
So it would have been about like a year and a half after that. So it was,
Okay.
I think it was July 2021. The first ever placement I got was Soulja Boy. The first two placements I got were
Nice.
Soulja Boy. Yeah, and that's a crazy story if you want me to dive into that, how he stole my beats and stuff like that.
Those are the ones he stole. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Explain real quick.
So, yeah, no, it was a crazy introduction to the industry and how it really can be sometimes, because there's only been a couple times, I have a decent amount of placements. There's only been a couple times where I've really gotten, paid for it in advance, everything like that. But I was having a conversation with this rapper. His name's King Paris, one of my boys that I've been working with for a while. He's like, yo, congratulations on getting a song with Soulja Boy. I was like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't get any paperwork or anything, right? So at the time, there's actually another CamJ in the industry that lands a lot of placements. He does like more melodic stuff. So at the time, I was getting quite a few messages like that. I was like, oh, it's probably just his again. But I listened to it and I heard the tag. I was like, oh, this is crazy, right? It's my first major placement, right? I was going crazy. I mean, I was running around the house. It was nuts. But it wasn't until I called my dad. You know how dads are. He's like, so did you get paperwork for it? How much you make? I was like, oh yeah, I didn't get any paperwork. So I was like, all right, I got to figure this out, right? So that's when I tried to reach out. I tried to contact everyone I could. I reached out to Soulja Boy, his record, his videographer. I mean, literally artists that are underneath him. I reached out to everyone. Quite a few people actually responded. Then when I brought it up, it's like, yo, I didn't get paid for this. Just left me on red. Completely left me on red, right? So I had to deal with that. And then at that point, it had been a couple months after, that's when I got in contact with the entertainment lawyer and explained the situation. And the funny thing is, he had already dealt with quite a few producers that also had the same situation. So he knew exactly what was going on. He had been in contact with his lawyers and stuff before. But, I mean, we looked at the numbers of the song, because the song's called You Did What. It really didn't blow up or anything like that. He was like, at this point, based on the numbers, it probably just wouldn't be worth your time or money to take this thing to court. So there definitely were some things that we could have done, but back then I just didn't know. So I just took his word for it. One of the things I wish we would have done was, threaten to take it down, right? A lot of times that's all you got to do, just threaten to take it down, and then they'll start talking, and then you can get an exclusive or something for that figured out. But no, nothing really came out of that. And then you released the second song, which was Not You Getting Yo Chain Snatched. And I believe that was in August or September, right? So, and that one blew up a little bit more, but same thing. I reached out to those people. Nothing came of it. So he had two songs that he released. And what he did is, I think he found me off of a Hellcats and Trackhawks type beat that I made that kind of blew up around that time, because that's when that song came out. And he went to BeatStars and got the free for nonprofit downloads. That's how he got the beats, because I didn't send him the beats. So he found them online, he downloaded it, and he just uploaded it on all streaming platforms. Didn't pay, nothing. It was pretty crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, it's messed
Yeah,
up.
yeah, that is. That's crazy. I didn't realize it till afterwards, but Soulja Boy bought a beat from me like 2, 3 years ago, and I didn't
Wow.
even realize it until like 2 years after.
Yeah, it's
Because
crazy. It's funny too
yeah,
because I had the email for a free beat, and then I looked after. I'm like, I literally got this dude's email. Right, I got his email on my email list. Is weird, man. But I know some producers he did buy beats from, but most of them he didn't.
yeah. Because I would see people like on the Heat Discord be like post a win, like, oh shit, Soulja Boy bought a beat, and I kept seeing that online. It's like, damn, he's buying beats like that. So I just like
Yep.
checked for fun, just I wonder if he bought a beat from me. It's like, oh shit, he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't think that ever
it's
came
crazy.
out, so I had no idea. I wasn't checking my sales like that back then. All the people I've talked to in the industry that like do a lot of major placements like that, they always say it's like, yeah, by the time the record comes out, no paperwork's been sent, no one's
Oh,
been
paperwork.
paid. Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
like the first step is like almost always threatening to take it down just to get them to say something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I literally just had a song released today, a decently big song that luckily we had paperwork before, but in advance means you're supposed to get it before the song drops.
Yeah.
Never got it. I still haven't got paid for it, even
Yeah.
though there's paperwork. So at least I know that I'll get paid for it. But you should get paid before the song drops. That's how it
Yeah.
works, right?
With good
But
business, but
yeah,
unfortunately that's not super common. I think I've
no,
only
no,
had like one of my major placements where they did that like properly, like go through, get the advanced
me too.
producer agreements before the song actually came out.
Yep.
It's just crazy. It's like compared to every other industry, the music industry is like such a wild, wild west when it comes to just getting
Yeah.
paid.
I think the biggest reason for that is because it's digital, right?
Hmm.
So it's hard to get in contact with people. It's hard to follow up on that. Everyone's busy, right? But no, I think it's just because it's digital. It's not face to face. So people they try to get away with a lot more.
Yeah,
So it's just part of the nature of it.
yeah. Especially nowadays with everything being online, it's like that kind of stuff can happen just accidentally all the time. It's just like, oh, you got this beat.
Sure.
Where'd you get this beat from? It's called fucking like almond type beat 2022. Like no name. Like what are we gonna do
Yeah.
with
No
this? But
tag.
yeah,
Right. And that's why like I want to say because some people they'll have that situation happen to them, and I'm glad I didn't react and like go on social media and be like, oh, this is terrible, because like if you react in a bad way and it's truly an accident, those people aren't going to work with you again.
yeah,
So it's one of those things. You got to be professional about it. You got to do your due diligence, reach out to people, reach out to a lawyer, and if it's still not resolved, then you can take further action. But don't go posting on social media.
yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Don't go burning no bridge unnecessarily. 'Cause
100%.
sometimes shit does happen. No, yeah, that's awesome. That's a crazy first placement. I also saw on your profile you're also a Billboard and a Gold certified
Yes,
producer.
sir.
So, what's the
Yep.
story behind those certifications? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
So I guess I'll start with the Billboard one because that came first. That was with Big Walk Dog.
Okay,
He had a super big tape called Trick City. Features with like Lil Baby, Gucci Mane, Ryler Rodriguez.
nice.
He's signed to Atlantic Records in 1017 under Gucci Mane, so he's a pretty big artist, right? What happened was I uploaded a loop kit, and at some point, a producer named Riffy God went and downloaded the loop kit
Hmm.
and used one of the samples in there, and it wound up being the song "Pray" on the initial album. And then what I did was I knew that song was coming out. I got contacted for the paperwork and stuff. They do good business. Atlantic Records in 1017, they do really good business. But what I did, and this is a really good strat, if you know a placement's going to come out and it's an artist that doesn't have like millions of followers, this has worked really well for me. Literally, just before it comes out, tell them, hey, I produced this song. I'm looking to get some more work in. I've done that with Big Walk Dog, Splurge, Young Mile, all these guys that I have placements with. Before it drops, just let them know, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and it's on their mind, right? So every single time I've done that, they've actually answered me, and that's how I got his number. So that's what I
Nice.
did. I got his number, and I just consistently sent them beats, right? And then he actually was planning on doing a deluxe, so he did a deluxe for Trick City, and I got on that as well. A song called Worldwide. It's one of my favorite placements. But yeah, no, that because of all the really big features and it was pushed by a label, it actually got 125 on the Billboard the first week. And then
Nice.
it also category called Heat Seekers albums. So it's like if it's your first time being on the Billboard, they rank you. So we got number one Heat Seekers album that week as well,
Mm,
which was really awesome. It's like up and coming artists, number one time on the Billboard. So that was really cool, man. Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. It was some of my favorite songs, got paid, everything like that. That was an awesome situation. The gold placement was overseas in Europe. So I haven't gone gold in America. I'm really
Oh,
looking forward to that. I'm hoping that Trick City will sometime soon. But the song was called Tutorial. It was a gold single, I believe, in Norway. There's a big artist over there called Rikta. So it was Rikta, Katos, and my boy Stepper was the one that had the connection. So pretty much same thing. I don't know if it was a sample pack or if I sent him a melody, but I just sent them a melodic melody and they used it. I think it was like within a month it went gold overseas in Europe, which is really cool. That was a cool
nice.
experience as well. Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Even European gold, the gold is gold.
the gold is the gold, man.
Yeah,
100%.
that's cool. So both of those came kind of, well, at least one came from you posting sample packs online.
Yes, 100%.
And how would you do that? Or are you just doing like free loop kits on YouTube, or are you like selling them?
Yeah, so I think at the time I was doing like a sample pack every 2 weeks. I wouldn't recommend this anymore, but I would do like a sample kit every week or every 2 weeks, and I would have they'd be able to purchase it if they wanted to get royalty free rights. So like $15 for like 10, 20 samples. Like I said, I wouldn't do this anymore, but that's what I was doing at the time.
Hmm.
You could also do a free download for it. So at the time, I was getting a lot of views doing that and a good amount of sales, but it's one of those things that really wasn't sustainable because I would rely on that influx of sales every 2 weeks at the time I post it, and the sales will fall off. So from an income standpoint, it wasn't the best, but from a placement standpoint, it was great, I guess. Just
Yeah.
getting your music out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those methods where it's like it's throwing it out there to chance, but when it comes to being like a numbers game, it's such a great opportunity,
Huge.
You never know what could happen
Yep.
with that.
Putting your stuff out on the internet, and then also I like to say, like, from a networking standpoint, I wouldn't say like posting loop kits got me the majority of my placements. From a sample maker standpoint, the thing that got me the most placements, it is because it is a numbers game, is networking every single day. So I'd reach out to 100 producers a day. I'd get their email. I had a really good system to do that if you want to dive into that. And then I would just send samples out every single day. I've seen some producers saying that they don't want to send stuff every day because they're like, oh, it's too spammy. And I just think that's ridiculous because, like, if you truly build a relation, like if you network properly and you build a relationship with someone, they're not just going to block you, right? That's not
Hmm.
going to happen. They're going to, if anything, they're going to say, yo, please stop sending. And that's fine. You take them off your list. But I've actually had the opposite happen where I don't send for a day, and I've had people be like, "Yo, where's the pack at?"
Where
Like I've
you
had
at?
that happen a bunch of times. Yeah.
I was
So
waiting.
people get used to it, man. It's like I like to relate it to watching your favorite YouTuber, right? They post at the same time every day, and you're gonna watch it. It's the same thing. If someone likes your stuff, they're gonna keep using it, right? So,
Yeah.
and you'll be at an extreme disadvantage if you're sending one time a week versus seven, right? Because
Hmm.
everyone else is sending seven, so you're gonna
Yeah.
get lost.
Definitely. No, I want to dive into that for sure if we can go
Yeah.
into that deeper. But I was one of those producers where I was like against the daily, but I started doing that
Mm.
more recently, and it's definitely the way to go for sure.
100%, because I think I
Yeah.
got at least half my placements from doing that.
Hmm.
Yep,
Yeah. And
it's
I
huge.
I would feel like sometimes it is annoying, but it's like, especially if you're sending it's like an artist phone number or something, like they gave you that number for a reason. They wanted
Yes,
value in return. So it's like they're not gonna be
100%.
like, yo, you're giving me value every day, bro. Stop that. But yeah, I definitely want to get into that system that you said. But before that, I was just gonna say that gem you dropped earlier about reaching out to Saswaka before the project dropped. That's
Mhm.
something like I missed out on a lot too. Before
Yeah,
I would have a major placement come out, I would know like, okay, like I should be like reaching out to everybody on this project, like the engineers, producers, managers, whoever. And I would do that
yep,
sometimes. And obviously, like the relationship, it's easy to build a relationship in that way because it's like, oh, like you're on this record, I'm on this record. Let's be friends,
yep,
like it's mutual common ground. We're all on the same level. It's perfect networking. But I would like just let life get in the way sometimes and not reach out to everybody. And I feel like that was a big fumble on my end, especially back
yeah.
then. Some of those bigger projects coming out.
100%, because really, like I said, it is a numbers game, and when you think about it, this is why I like samples way more than beats, right? Because if you really break it down, like if you're a producer and you send beats out to say 100 artists, that's like if you send 4 beats out in that email, you got a max of 400 beats that could be made or recorded to. But if you're a sample maker, right, you send your sample out to 400 beat makers, and then they make stuff on it, and then they send their stuff out to their list of 100 artists. Think about how much stuff can be made And if you really want to go even more crazy, and I actually think starters are super underrated, right? Because then you just multiply that even more, right? If you send out starters to 400 producers, and then they send it out to beat makers, and then they send it out to artists, it can be crazy. And that's why you see these sample makers, and they do the starters too, and they're landing placements like crazy.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, sample makers, loop makers, they've been killing it for the last few years, probably just for
Yeah.
those reasons. Do you want to get into what you mentioned earlier about your system for doing all that kind of stuff to be getting these
Yeah.
placements?
Yeah, 100%. It's very, not original. It's something that pretty much everyone does. But, I did a video on this recently, breaking stuff down. I read some of the comments, and they're like, yo, this is the same stuff. But it's like one of those things. Would you rather me give you a unique strategy that I don't know if it works or not? Or would you rather get something that you know is going to work every time, and it's going to work for 10, 20 years going forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do, specifically if you're a beat maker, I call it the inner circle framework. So if you're a beat maker, then you want to reach out to artists that are close to the major artists. So you go to their following, you send them a DM just saying like, hey bro, let's work. You can do that with every artist that's under them. I've gotten a lot of placements by doing that. And then for sample makers, super easy. Just go to genius.com, go to the album, search up an artist, go to their album. It's going to show you contact info for every single producer that's worked on that album. Just hit up everyone, right? Hit up everyone. And one of the things that's been super big for me, because I still see so many producers being like, yo, bro, where can I send loops? And it's just something that doesn't work anymore. I'm just being honest, right? Don't want to pick on anyone, but it just doesn't really work anymore. You need to, because the reality is all these producers, they have all the samples they could ever need, right? So how are you going to stand out? You're going to offer them something of immense value. If they're an industry producer, what do you offer them? They're going to want more opportunities, right? So that's what I do. I don't ask them for anything. I was like, yo, I love the work you did on this album. I got opportunities for Big Walk Dog, Splurge, all these guys. Let's work. And I give to them. I don't ask for anything. And basically what I say is like, of course they're going to say yes. And what I say is totally true because I don't have time to do the drums on the beats all myself. So I have a ton of samples for these guys. Would you mind doing the drums on it? And they're like, yes, of course I can do that. And then they're going to send it back. So they're going to give you their email right there. And I have like a 50 to 60% open rate just by offering my opportunities, which is huge, right? If you're trying to reach out to the big producers, I'd argue that that's not a really good strategy because these guys, they're not going to waste their time on the smaller opportunities, right? So what would actually be of more value to them is, video editing, graphic design, things that would actually be of value to them would be more so things along that line. So I would recommend doing that. But if you're reaching out to these smaller producers, sample makers, guys that are under 10, 20,000, opportunities is where it's at, offering opportunities.
Nah, definitely. You just dropped some big gems right there. I want to ask about more networking tips you got, but real quick. What you just said about offering video editing, like that's such one of my producer friends has been able to connect with so many big producers on YouTube and like in the industry, like 808 Mafia, just by being a video editor. So crazy opportunity there.
It's also something too, like if you're just going to be offering video editing, you got to do your homework, right? Go to their profile and make sure they're actually making videos, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because they're not going to answer you if they're not making videos, stuff like that. It's very simple, but just the little details. And I would say if you don't have opportunities to offer at first, it's going to be tough. The goal would be to get, 2 to 3 opportunities that you can offer people, right? So in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of hard work. You're going to have to offer free video editing, free graphic design, all that, until you can get those opportunities for yourself. And then you can move forward, and it'll be a lot easier to just offer your opportunities because you don't have to, take hours out of your day to make videos for people.
Yeah. No, definitely. I feel like myself, and I see a lot of other producers kind of overthink it when it comes to trying to network and message artists specifically to get beats to them. Do you have any specific gems for that? Like, is it as simple as just like, hey, let's work? Or
if we're talking about like what I said with the inner circle framework, reaching out to artists that are connected to the big artists, I would suggest giving them beats for free, right? Because you are going to have some producers that are also reaching out to them and trying to work. And the way you stand out from those guys is by giving stuff for free, right? They're going to work with the person that gives out free beats. Give out free beats and just obviously be consistent with trying to send packs and network with them. I have like a couple artists, specifically like Splurge, for example. I have a placement with Splurge. The way I got that is I networked with every single artist that was around it. Like every single one of them I have songs with. So it's like one of those things. It also has the effect too, if all of his friends are playing your beats, after a while he's gonna keep hearing your tag. You know, there's the possibility that he could be like, yo, where are you getting those beats from, right? The major artist. Not only do you have the opportunity for him, the major artist, to hop on a feature from that smaller artist, which has happened for me multiple times. Got my G Herbo placement, Nardowick placement, a couple other ones I'm blanking right now. But not only that, but there's a possibility that they could be like, yo, send me a pack personally as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, like networking, building relationships is key to getting placements. Do you like keep track of this inner circle? Do you just keep track of that mentally or with your following list, or do you like write it down anywhere? Or just kind of like keep mental notes?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much just like the only people I follow on Instagram and stuff like that are people that I want to work with, right? So that's kind of the mental note, is like going on Instagram and seeing these people. And then when I see their post, I'll make sure I comment, I'll hit them up. So that's kind of the mental reminder for me, continue to network with these people. But other than that, like when I'm sending out packs, if I have a pack that's like, I'll think like, oh, this is good for this artist, and I'll send it, right? So things like that.
Yeah, awesome. So I kind of want to start talking a little bit about content. When did you first start making content as a music producer?
Oh, shoot. I mean, it would at least be about 2 years at this point. The first time I did it, I didn't do any I did some music stuff, but a majority it was like tips and tricks. I mean, I had decent success with that. You know, I get a few thousand views here and there, but nothing like crazy. But it got to a point, at that point, I wasn't making enough to get an editor, so I had to record, script, edit everything myself. And I just got completely burnt out because I was also doing so much on the business side. I didn't have much leverage or time for myself. Got to a point like it was bad for my mental health. And it was like, all right, what's the one thing that I'm not really making money off of right now that I can, cut off and at least give myself some time to get back to normal here. So I had to take a break, I think, for at least 4 months, which, looking back, I wish I didn't, right? I wish I didn't, but it's good. It was important at the time. And I got back into it January of this year. And that's when I did 0 to 100K series, just basically trying to do producer business and marketing tips through like a series where I had a sound kit, and I was basically every single day I would show the sales I would get from that, the failures I would get from that. And every day I would try to add a gem inside of the video, some sort of marketing gem, business gem that producers could use and learn from. So that's what I started doing in January. Fortunately, that series kind of fell off a little bit, and it just wasn't worth, because at the time I was paying an editor and everything like that. So stuff just wasn't aligning. So I had to change the strategy a little bit and go more towards music and doing tips and tricks and stuff like that. And that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, I feel like if you can get into the grind of like either like daily uploading, daily sending, just doing something daily, I feel like that's when you see like major growth, like as a creative. What do you think were the biggest things you learned while posting like that 100-day series?
Obviously consistency, and also, like you said, after a while you have that compounding effect of just people keep coming back, and then that's how you build trust, because content's really about building trust, right? You build trust with your audience through providing value, and then that's when you can then push them to your products and services, and they buy and stuff like that. Showing the highs and the lows was incredible. Like, it was awesome for me because it's actually very surprising. The highs, when I would get like $500 days and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is going to kill, because like there's a lot of really good content in there, and I would only get like 1,000, 2,000 views. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then when I would show the lows, when the next day I would get like a $0 day, I would get 5 times the amount of views, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's just because like going back to creating trust and stuff like that, showing yourself being a real human and what you actually have to go through is key.
Yeah.
It was really big for me. It was a great lesson.
Definitely. I feel like authenticity is like the biggest thing for like creators in 2024 and going forward. So just like the fact that it's just like you're not just showing the highs, you're also showing, the lows. That's big, because most, especially producers, like only post the wins, like placement coming out.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Just post the Lambos,
Yeah.
It's like, come on, bro. Like, this show a little bit behind that, right?
Yeah.
The struggles, yeah.
Because then it's like, it's not always like that. Some days it's like, I just spent $500 on ad spend today and made nothing back.
Literally, yeah, because at a point I was spending about $100 a day on ads, right? And then the days that I wouldn't make any money, that's $100 down the drain, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's real stuff, man. Real
Yeah.
stuff.
And that probably helped you learn a lot, like more with combining the business aspect of music production. Because I feel like a lot of the problems that come with producers trying to grow, trying to learn marketing and business is the creativity and the business don't mix at all. It's like two different sides of your brain in a way to most people.
I would say, yeah, to most people.
Yeah.
But once I really dove into the business side of things, I was like, I treated it like a game, and it was really fun to learn all that stuff and implement it. Because once you start to implement it, and I think the part for producers, it's like you don't see success right away with this stuff, with the business side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, oh, it's not worth it. But if you really take the time and once you get the success with it, then it really does become just as fun as making the music. At least that's what it has been for me.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've kind of learned to grow into that kind of mindset because before I was definitely one of those where it's like, I don't care about the business at all. I just want to make music, make the art, whatever. And, obviously that's something that's going to hold you back. But I feel like you either push past that and like actually get to learn, how it can mix together, how it is fun, like how you said, you sound like one of those people where that kind of comes a little bit more natural when it comes to producer space versus everybody else. So that's definitely a big
100%.
key right there, especially like, the ad spend budget a day, you're handling it more like how literally every other business handles things, which most music businesses never get to that point.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you really do have to think about it like you're a business because you are.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think the transition happens from being part-time to a full-time producer. Because I would say like 20% of it is making the art and the 80% is the networking and the business side. Like that's really what it is, and building a brand. So that's the real business we're in, right? So you got to treat it like that, and you got to allocate your time accordingly.
Yeah, definitely. Because expand what I just said, like most producers don't go past that music part. It's like, okay, we got these sick beats, but it's like in a real business, there's way more. There's more than just the product development, with your beats, music. That's your product. You got your whole marketing team.
Small part of it.
Yeah, you got your whole marketing team, your admin team, your sales. It's like literally so many other buckets that you got to go.
Customer service. And
yeah. The producers that just pay attention and just do those basics, that are willing to do those basics that nobody else is, those are the ones that are going to be seeing success and winning, like as you probably experienced, There's 100 little things that most producers don't want to do because it's not fun. The ones that realize the importance of it are going to see why,
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. It's like, no matter what business you get into, right? I would rather do it, with something that I love, right? There's going to be stuff you hate in every single business you do or every job you get. So would you rather struggle at least, but doing something that you love to do at least 20% of the time, right? Or go get a job where you hate doing it, and then you're also doing stuff that you hate as well on top of it, right? So
nah, that's some big gems. Speaking about content, I want to go a little bit more into the story behind producer priority and kind of the evolution.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, you were doing it more like a traditional producer kit selling site. You got your kits, different preset bangs, some kits, whatever, different categories. But then you evolved into just one major product. And I remember you saying that thought process out loud at the time. But can you kind of go into that a little bit more in a little bit more detail here?
Yeah. So I started Producer Priority around July of last year, so it's been around a year. And like you said, it was definitely a lot of the different packs and stuff. At the time, I really wasn't making much money from it, right? Because I was trying to run ads and stuff like that. I wasn't really doing content. It didn't really make me a lot of money. And then it was towards the end of the year when I shifted towards making the one giant product, right? Because I knew that was the gateway to really, not necessarily a lot of money, but you also get a lot of profit from the big kits. I will say that, right? Because let's think about it from this perspective with ads, right? A lot of producers don't think about this. When I was selling my bundle, majority of the time I had to spend up to $57 to get a customer, and that was the cost of the bundle, right? So if you think about it, even on a smaller scale, I know I'm going into ads a little bit, right? But I was doing these $20 kits at the time, and I had to spend like at least $20, sometimes $25 a day to even get a sale, right? And that's just not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't think that old model is very sustainable anymore, just the small kits and stuff like that. So that is why I did choose to do the big kit. I was like, from a profit standpoint, from a business standpoint, it just makes sense. I did transition to a one product store, not really for like any specific reason besides the fact that the big bundle that I made, I literally put everything that I made at that point into a bundle. And I didn't want to sell that and then also sell all the other stuff that was already in the bundle at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of eliminated those because I didn't want to decrease trust in a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
They bought something else, like, yo, I already used this, right? But there is something special behind the power of having one product in your store. It kind of adds like an extra importance to the product, right? If it's the only thing they can buy, and it's like, oh, this is premium, right? It kind of has like a premium effect to it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's sick. You kind of mentioned it as kind of just a combination of everything that you made together. Can you talk a little bit more about how you put that together? You know, what kind of went to the creation of the pack? You know, because I looked it up. It's a huge pack.
Huge, bro. Huge. There's almost like 3,000 sounds in it.
Goddamn.
So, yeah, it was a combination of everything I made in the past like 2 years. And at the time, I was learning about funnels, producer funnels, and that's where I had my success. And I know we can get into that too, but that's where I had my success with selling this bundle. The way I put it together, at the time I was learning about how to make an irresistible offer, how to make something so crazy that it's like, damn, like I have to buy this, right? And it really, really worked. So I was like thinking about the offer. I was like, what is, just list out everything that a producer could possibly want. And I just listed everything, samples, one shots, drums, trainings, opportunities. Like I just listed everything I possibly could. I was like, I got to make this. All right. And I just went and I made it. I made everything from scratch. And that's why I think took super long, because it took me about 4 months from the time I started to make it to the time I launched it. And that's with having the majority of the product already done. So if a producer was thinking about doing something on that scale, unless you already had the stuff made, it's probably not doable, I would say, unless you have a team. But that's what I did. I just listed everything out. And I was like, all right, I got to make this, because this is something that would be so hard to say no to, right? So that's what I did. In the next 4 months, I made my own trainings and stuff like that, but I also did go out and ask producers that had, good trainings. I was like, hey, this probably isn't selling for you that much anymore. Would you be willing to include it for some extra brand exposure and stuff like that? Or potentially I could buy it from you for a lease or something like that. Because if you're thinking about doing something that big, like I know firsthand, creating all the trainings and everything like that takes so long to do.
Yeah.
So being able to, reach out to people and get some of that product from other people and just include it could be a huge help if you're trying to do that. But overall, I think it was worth it, because now I have everything with that bundle is in-house. So I get to keep 100% of the profits. So that was the whole mindset behind building that, just putting everything I possibly could into one bundle.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any tips for creating like new and unique sound kits and digital products like that for producers, because I feel like everybody's so used to the world of recycled drum sounds and all this, and with the way you said it's changing, like that older kit model isn't really working anymore, compared to how a lot of producers do it nowadays. So it's like, how do you make something that can compete against everybody else and be different,
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like if you make something super unique, you don't have to compete against anyone else, because you have the only thing like that on the market. Like my bundle, there's nothing else like that on the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the problem that I solved really for my bundle was like, I wanted to target producers that maybe are struggling to land placements or maybe struggling to get beat sales, and then also adding in all these crazy sounds and everything like that, that makes it really hard for any producer to say no, right? So that's kind of like the main area I was trying to target, the main person I was trying to target. But really, to stand out from everyone else, you just have to solve a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Solve a problem with your product. And that's what the best products in the world do. There's products out there that they charge $100,000 and above for one singular product. And that's because it solves a problem for that person, right? So if you want to make a bundle for trap producers, right? If you're doing a small kit, if you're doing a small bundle, you might only be able to solve the problem of making one shots and melody sounds for a trap producer, right? But if you're making a bundle, you can solve every single problem that trap producer might have. You can make samples for them, midis, one shots, drums, everything, and you solve all their problems at one time. And then you can charge a premium for that, right? It's like the guys like Producer Grind Cymatics, that's what they do. You see every bundle they put out has a theme to it, right? Mm-hmm. It has a theme to it. You can do that with your sound kits. You can do that with your beat bundles as well. But add a theme to your stuff, solve a specific problem, and you can charge a premium for that. That's why courses are so good. And you can charge like thousands of dollars for courses. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Solves a problem.
Nice.
Yep.
No, yeah, that's some gems right there. I do want to get into ads because I know you know a lot about that. But you mentioned earlier that you found some success with producer funnels. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So with producer funnels, basically, I kind of equate it to like a website on crack, right? It's it's pretty crazy because really instead of like a traditional website where you're able to check stuff out, you can go to other pages, check out other stuff. You might add to cart, you might do all these things and then eventually leave because there's so many options. With the funnels, it's so awesome is there's only two options you have. It's to say yes or to say no. And that's it, right? So with the whole funnel process, generally you start with an opt-in page. So something for free, they opt in for it. So it's get your email address in exchange for a product or leave the page. That's the opt. Next page, you go to a sales page, right? And it's either you give them a video sales letter, you basically tell them why they should get the product, right? Which is very powerful because you build rapport. The process is yes or no. Do you want the product or do you not want the product? You can't go anywhere else. So it's super powerful. If they actually go through everything and they're like, oh, wow, this is a really awesome product. I'm going to get a lot out of this. And then that's when they buy. So when you have a powerful offer mixed with the ability to send them through this streamlined funnel of like yes or no, it just takes everything out of the equation. It just becomes like, do I want this thing or do I not want this thing, which is super powerful.
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. I've done something similar for my kit selling site before. It wasn't my face like in the VSL, but I did all like kind of what you just said, and it's crazy. Like you get that set up right, it's like a money printer, literally.
And I will say, I mean, I made a lot off that doing it that way, but I also had like a 5% conversion rate. And when you think about it from e-commerce, conversion rate means how many people visit your webpage versus how many people that buy, right? So generally it's around 1 to 3% is the average. And I would say for like BeatStars, people that click off your type beats, stuff like that, they go to the page, generally it's going to be around 1% because it's not optimized at all. Mm-hmm. They can go, especially if you send them to a normal BeatStars and not a pro page, because like I said, they can go check out other beats. They can go...
It's got to autoplay somebody else.
Yeah, seriously, it's like it's very tough to get sales doing that. Mm-hmm. So switching from that to a streamlined yes or no system is incredibly powerful, and 5% is crazy.
No, that's awesome. I'm familiar with like a lot of what we're talking about here just because, you know, I'm kind of in the same business space as you probably are, you know, like learning education. Where do you learn this stuff from? And like, how do you figure out how to like implement it into the world of music producers without being a cornball?
Specifically for the funnel side of things, I learned that from Gabe from Legion Beats and Anno Domini. Those are the guys that really pioneered it. They made over $1 million selling sound kits with the funnel system, right? So that's where I learned that stuff. And they have a whole course going over that and how to set up your offers and everything. So like, all the things that I learned specifically for the success of the pack that I had was from that training they had, because they go really deep into driving traffic and building insane offers, and the whole funnel is crazy. Copy on your page that gets people to buy. Like really, that's where I learned that. So I would highly recommend that course if you wanted to do that, if you're interested in that. Obviously, YouTube Academy, right? It never goes wrong. I learned email marketing from you guys, right? A lot of my email marketing stuff.
Nice.
Ads specifically. There's a guy named Ben Heath. He's very, very good. He's an expert in the Facebook ad space.
Nice.
Right. So that's where I learned all my Facebook ad stuff. I'd highly recommend him. But overall, you know, you can learn all the stuff you want, but if you're not implementing it, then it doesn't matter, right? So the biggest thing for me was not learning all this stuff at once, but learning it and then implementing it. Learning it, then implementing it. It's a slower process, but you get way more out of it because you actually learn by doing it. You learn the most by doing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And you also add onto your own personal set of skills, you know, like the more you learn, the more you implement. If you're like an employee, then you become like, you know, way more valuable as an employee, but like as an entrepreneur, which, you know, we are as music producers, you know, it's like you just keep leveling up.
I was going to say, I like to think about it too, is like a lot of producers are very young when they start this. So it might not be something that you want to do forever, right? But if you learn this stuff now, if you learn the fundamentals of business now, by the time you go do something else, if you ever want to do something else, you can make a lot of money. So it's very important. Just constantly learn.
Like side note too, I was a full-time, I have been, but I was first a full-time music producer, but then I started another business and I was kind of doing both at the same time. I learned so much about running that second business from being a full-time producer. And then I learned so much about being a music producer by running another business that has nothing to do with music at all. So it's just those skills, they keep stacking. You use them in different ways and you just interact with the world and it just all comes together. The whole world of business, it makes more sense when you take the time to learn this stuff and then actually implement it.
100%.
You said earlier that you have hired editors. You said you bought a course. It sounds like you just like always invested into yourself as a producer and a business person. I think that's probably a lot of why, like, you know, you're in the space you are, you know, like with the success, because a lot of producers come from a more scarcity mindset, you know, where it's like, I can't pay 10, 20 bucks video editing for whatever, or it's like, I don't want to buy this course because what if I don't get my money back? But that's definitely a big thing that I see you doing the opposite of.
100%. Yeah. And I would say, you know, that stuff comes from confidence over time, right? To be able to, you know, invest in yourself, you know, start small, you know, you don't have to buy a $400 course off the bat, but, you know, maybe it is hiring an editor for a couple of videos a week, right? That's like $20 a video or something like that, you know, start small and then gradually build up. But it's about delegation over time, because if you're the business owner, then your main focus should be on making money, right? Because most business owners, that's what they're best at. So you learn that first, how to make money, because that's how you keep your business going. And you delegate things that would take a lot of your time that probably won't make you as much money. So think about it from that lens.
No, definitely. A lot of producers I see that are killing it live by that. Like they're just like, I don't want to do nothing that's not the important things that's gonna ultimately make money. Like everybody else do that other bullshit.
That's it. That's how you do it.
I kind of want to start getting into ads now. How did you first get into learning ads and running ads as a producer? And was it hard at first? Did you kind of lose some money at first? What was the story of that? Because I don't hear too much about producers doing it. And when I do, you hear them say like, don't do it, it's wasting money, blah, 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 you know? So I feel like it's very biased. I want to hear it from someone a little bit more like experienced with it.
I would say for most producers, it might not be worth it, right? And I can go into detail with that a little bit later, but for specifically what I was doing, if you're going to run ads, you should have a product that's at least $40, right? And like I had these whole systems set up where I'd get a lot more revenue for each customer, right? So if you're running ads, it's all about, well, in the e-commerce space specifically, the way it works, a lot of times you're going to break even on a sale, right? You're going to break even on a sale, but then you get that customer that you can then sell to consistently down the line. So that's really what you do with your ads. And that should be the game plan, right? But as far as learning ads, I learned first from Kavi back when he was doing the $5 a day. I learned that from his video. Don't do that anymore, right? He says that too.
Yeah.
But that's where I first started getting into it. And that was last year when I was doing like break even on my $20 sound kits and stuff like that. It wasn't until I was going to launch this new bundle that I was like, okay, I need to figure out how am I going to get traffic to my website? How am I going to do this? And then that's when I was like, oh, okay, I'll do paid ads. My issue was, and this was actually one of the downfalls on my end, was I only ran ads. And that was a big no-no, right? If you're going to run ads specifically, you should also have probably something organic like content, your email list, something along those lines that you can rely on as well, because some days ads don't work. Your ad account might get shut down. And if that dries up, your money dries up, your lead flow dries up, right? And I was at a point where I wasn't skilled enough when that happened, when my ads dried up, to go and still get sales consistently. So that was a hard lesson I had to learn.
Would you recommend, like you said, most producers probably shouldn't start with ads. Would you say like producers should not even think about it until they have their own organic fan base set? Or, you know, how do you think that would work?
Like I said, you really should have two acquisition channels, two ways to get customers, right? But most producers are in the boat that I was in, where they're selling the $20, $30 products, and it's the cost to get a customer keeps going up and up and up. Like I said, like I had a $57 product. The way I was able to profit off of that was I'd break even on the $57 sale, and then I had upsells in the back end to get people to, you know, that's how I'd make my profit from those upsells on the back end. That's how most e-commerce works. But most producers don't have that system set up. So they're only breaking even on ads. They're only breaking even. They're only getting the first sale. They don't have back-end stuff where they have, you know, email automations to get someone to come back and buy again. So if you don't have that stuff set up, if you don't know that stuff, then that's when I wouldn't recommend it, right? you will get the customer. But if you don't know how to, have upsells and all these systems that will make you more money additionally, but then also the back end stuff to get them to buy again, because that's really where you make a lot of money in e-commerce. If you don't know that stuff, then I would say stay away from it from now, but certainly learn that, because that's how you grow a real business, right? No matter what you do.
Definitely. What have you learned about creating the creatives for the ad, and what kind of converts better than what doesn't convert?
The biggest thing that I've learned is it's not even necessarily all the stuff, the Facebook ads itself, not even necessarily the creative or the headlines or the description. I can definitely go into that. But the biggest lever on whether your ads are going to be successful or not is your offer, is what you're offering. That's it. Like, that's where the majority of your 80% of your focus should go, to making your product as good as possible. Because if your product is super good, not only are people going to buy it more, but people are also going to recommend it to more people. They're going to do the advertising for you. It's called referrals, right? They're going to refer it to other people, and they're going to come and buy it. I know I saw that firsthand. I'm sure you know Prod DB.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's one of his first kids, but one of the kids he had went crazy, and everyone was posting it. Every single person was posting it on social media. And it was like, dang, like this dude must be making like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 off that kid, because everyone is posting it. If you have an exceptional product that's not recycled, then that's, no matter what you do, if you're advertising or not, it's going to sell, right?
Yeah.
So more specifically with ads, that's how you get the highest return, is by having a really good product. And then getting into the creative and stuff, like, you don't have to overcomplicate that either, right? One of the highest ads that I had as far as the return, it was just a preview of the beat, and it said POV, you found 2,784 sounds. And that's all it was. And it was like, it had a button that said click below to get them. And then people go to the page, and then the page itself would sell them and build trust and stuff like that. So it was the offer and the way I set up the page and the back end stuff that really drove the majority of the sales. But then once you really have the back end stuff set up, then you can focus more on the front end and focus on making better ads and stuff like that. But no, I didn't really focus much on the ad creative that much compared to everything else.
Where would you suggest producers even start to learn about that? Like, I know you mentioned Ben Heath earlier, but I feel like Meta especially is so giant, so confusing the way that everything's set up. It's pretty intimidating just to be able to get the ad account to even be able to post something,
It is, right? And that's why most producers want to do like the boost, because it's so simple. It's already set up, right? Just need your credit card. But that is where I learned everything was from Ben Heath, everything. But the first thing you should do, obviously, you got to set up your product, everything like that. Maybe make an ad creative. Definitely watch some Ben Heath videos, but obviously setting up is the longest part. Like, setting up takes a while, setting everything up so it can actually run. But you need to set up your meta pixel. So your pixel is going to be tracking your site, all the people that click. Facebook knows who likes your stuff, who doesn't like your stuff, right? I would say Ben Heath is he has everything you could possibly need. I've binged like for weeks just Ben Heath videos over and over and over, and like just nonstop. But like I said before, the biggest way you're going to learn is by going and doing it, right? Setting it up might take a while, but once you actually have everything set up and you run it, you get it pretty fast. You have your campaign, you have your ad set where you target people, and then you have your ad creative, right? You just have to, put a budget in. Facebook's super good. Like, people try to overthink it, specifically with the targeting side of it, right? Who should I target? But Facebook has gotten so good to this point that you don't even need to put anything in the targeting. Like, you don't need a lookalike audience of people that bought your beats, or you don't need any of that. You can literally leave it open and it'll find your buyers. The biggest thing, specifically with producers, why they stop is they don't spend enough money on ads to even know the results, right? Going back to my product, it was a $57 product. And I had to spend $57 to break even, to get a customer majority of the time. So most producers start out, they'll do $5, $10. If you have a $57 product, you have to wait at least 5 to 6 days to even get to that number where you break even, right? And most times producers at that point, like, oh, I haven't gotten any money, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. You definitely have to be willing to waste money. And I wasted probably at least $1,000 on ads, right? But I mean, I've gotten way, way more in return, because I was actually able to be consistent with it and let it ride out. Because specifically with the campaigns on Facebook, they get better over time. In the beginning, it's going to take a minute for it to be like, okay, this is the person we need to target. But once someone buys and then someone buys again, it's just going to get better and better at finding that person that wants to buy that specific product. At one point, one campaign I probably put almost $6,000 into. I was doing $100 a day. Just kept getting better. Like it was consistent 2 or 3 sales a day, nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. So it gets better over time. You just need to. I would suggest starting with $20 a day, and then if that is profitable after a week, move up to 30. And if that's profitable after a week, go to 50 and keep scaling up as long as it's profitable. But you have to at least wait a week and be patient with it, and over time it'll get better. But you do have to be willing to waste a little bit of money at least, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
tough.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it's definitely super interesting hearing about it because that's something that I've been
Yeah.
meaning to get into a lot lately, learning how to run ads.
Yeah. It's one of those things. There's nothing else out there unless you pay like a creator to promote your stuff, really big creator. There's nothing else out there that you can go from making nothing to be making $3,000-4,000 a day, right?
Yeah.
Because I was making 2-to-1 returns, which is all right. But if I put in $1,000, I would get $2,000 out. If you can scale it to that point, you can do that, right? So there's nothing else out there that's like that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is why I think all producers should learn it. Should be some part of your business for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's a reason why all these big businesses have so much of a big budget for paid advertisement in every which way.
Let's go back to content, right? Because with content, you're building brand awareness. Say you have like 50,000 followers and you're a producer and you've never ran ads before. I can guarantee you've built a brand for that long. If you started running ads right now, they would kill. They would kill. Like specifically, if you already have a brand, over time as you build your brand, your ads will do better over time because people trust you already. And then when you present an offer in front of them, that's when they scoop in and they buy something from you, right? You just need to present that to them. And with ads, people are like, okay, this is cool. Like, I want this. That's a gem too.
Yeah.
That's why building a brand and content will absolutely affect your ads too in a positive way.
I can see it. That's a big gem for anybody in that position where it's like, you want some more money? That's how. Is there anything else you want to touch on when it comes to running ads and content creation in general? I know we touched on a lot, but you're pretty knowledgeable on this kind of stuff.
We did.
So
Specifically with content, I feel like producers look at that in a wrong way. Like they think that content itself is something that you can make money off of, right? So like they post the snippets where they're like, oh, DM me to buy this beat, right? But you're skipping the whole process of building trust and doing that. You're going to get people there might be some people that are impulse buyers that'll buy. Majority of the people won't. So really, I think producers look at content in the wrong lens. You should be looking at it more as a lead generation thing, something that you build trust, right? The way you get people to really buy from you, you give out free products. Like I would suggest only giving out free products, sometimes doing offers and stuff like that in your story or whatever, but very few and far in between. Most producers are doing offers every single video, which is like, you're not going to build a brand that way. It's going to be very tough. It's going to be very long. Do your free stuff. It's brand awareness. And then you get them to join your list, like by offering free stuff and all that. With content specifically, a lot of people don't know. Someone needs to watch at least 7 hours of your content before they buy from you, right? So the way you can speed up that process, specifically if you do short form, is by getting them to join your list, because then they're going to read your emails. On your emails, you can send them back to your long form YouTube stuff, right? You can do all that, and it speeds up the process so much faster. But most people are just trying to sell on their short form stuff or whatever it might be. It's like, it's going to be very hard to grow that way. So I'd suggest looking at it in a different lens, trying to get those 7 hours out of the way as quick as possible, but not in a way that's going to have people unfollow you and you might seem shady, So
yeah, nah, that's a major gem right there. But awesome, bro. I really appreciate you for taking the time to have a conversation.
Oh,
yeah, spilled a lot of gems here. I learned a lot personally, so I'm glad we're able to do this. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you, if you woke up tomorrow and you started from zero as a producer, but you had all the same brain, you knew everything you knew, you had your experiences, all that, where would you start to be able to build back up to where you are at and continue up even further?
If I had the same brain, then like I said, with ads are absolutely the quickest way to scale, right? So right away, I'd find something. It probably wouldn't be making a sound kit or beats and stuff, because that takes forever to build an offer, but I would need to build a really insane offer for someone. So it might be like a consulting deal. It might be like a course or something like that. So if I was starting over, I would definitely run ads for something like that and offer something very valuable. I'd offer the information I have up here to someone else and do consulting and stuff like that. If you're a producer just starting out, right, I would say right now the money's definitely in sound kits. You can make money doing anything, right? You can make money doing anything. Everyone's going to sell you the shiny object, but I would definitely recommend learning the stuff that we talked about in this video, building offers and the funnels and stuff like that, because you really can elevate how much you make significantly. So I'd recommend that. And if you're someone that knows a lot of this stuff, might not know some of it, learn the stuff you don't know and then start implementing it. You got to do it. You got to start working.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great advice. Big gems right there. Well, CamJ, I appreciate you for coming on. I hope you have a good day.
Yes,
Thanks for the conversation.
You too, man. Hey, and anyone that's watching, if you guys really want to take your business to the next level, this isn't an ad. He didn't tell me to say this, but the Heat Agency, those guys, they know what they're doing. If you think that I know what I'm talking about, these guys know way more than I do with all this stuff, and they're beasts with that. So definitely hit them up.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. Tap in. Thank you,
Yes,
man.
Sir.